As a pastor, I recommend that Christians vote for 3 reasons. America was founded upon the application of the Bible to civics. The First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution verifies that we were a Christian nation. And I believe we should have godly people in government to do what James Madison said. That is, work out the American system of government through the Christians for which it was designed. America was not founded upon the concept of separation of church and state, a phrase that communicates that God has separated himself from his creation and the nations he established. This phrase, separation of church and state, does not appear in the U.S. Constitution, nor can it be justified with an unbiased reading of Scripture. For if God intended to separate himself from the state, he never would have drowned Pharaoh's army in the sea when he led his state to disobey God. America was founded upon the application of the Bible to civics. There are 10 commandments and there are 10 Bill of Rights. Each Bill of Rights is designed so people in government treat we the people according to the 10 commandments. The First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution highlights how the Bible applies to America's civics. The First Amendment conjoins 5 elements or activities or rights, if you will. They begin with freedom of religion, because biblical Christianity, the only religion our founding fathers practiced, which they got from the Puritans who fled Europe to be able to practice their religion publicly, freely. As an English teacher, I was taught, always keep in mind what comes first, because that's the thread that will run through all the other elements. Freedom of religion is supposed to guide freedom of speech. How do we know what's appropriate freedom of speech and what's inappropriate freedom of speech? The Bible tells me so. The press, a free press, is supposed to be guided by biblical morality. The press is supposed to be reporting as noteworthy that which the Bible calls praiseworthy. The press is supposed to be reporting as criminal behavior that which the Bible calls public sin. The reason the Founding Fathers gave us the freedom to assemble is because they believed that if people did not freely gather peaceably for Bible studies before work in the morning and during lunchtime and in the evenings, they will not know upon what their freedom was based. De Tocqueville came to America 50 years after the signing of the U.S. Constitution, and he wanted to know how could such a free people be living so peaceably. And he said he discovered the reason. The reason is that these people know their Bibles and they know their constitutions. And I say we got to get the biblical chicken before the constitutional egg. The reason the Founding Fathers encouraged us in the 5th part of the First Amendment, which conjoins those 5 activities, which is to redress our government, is because our Founding Fathers literally were saying, if the people in government stray from their biblical morality, from treating we the people according to the 10 commandments, we should mass ourselves together and drag our government back onto a godly path. This we have failed to do in America because of a concept called separation of church and state. We teach the Bible as if it only applies to within the 4 walls of a church. It's churchianity. It's not culturally transforming Christianity, which is what God wanted Israel to be in the Old Testament and which he gave us in the New Testament. John Jay, the first Chief Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court, wrote in a letter to Jedediah Morse in 1797, saying, "Providence has given to our people the choice of their rulers, and it is the duty as well as the privilege and interest of our Christian nation to select and prefer Christians for their rulers. I am voting because Proverbs 29:2 says, in the King James and in the New Living Translation, when the godly or the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice, but when the wicked beareth the rule, the people groan." I believe we have an obligation before God, who inspired our nation's founders to apply his word to civics. That responsibility includes knowing our true heritage, the true history of this nation, and voting for people who demonstrate that they have a 10 Commandments value system, regardless of their party affiliation. As constitutionally minded Christian citizens, we should start a 10 Commandments Bill of Rights party. For through the 10 Commandments, God secures what Thomas Aquinas called our natural Decalogue rights. Through commandment number 6, God says we have a right not to be murdered. Through commandment number 7, God says you have a right not to be sexually molested. Through commandment number 8, God says you have a right not to be stolen from. Through commandment number 9, God says you have a right not to be lied to or about. And through commandment number 10, God says we have a right for evil people in the government to not covet what I call our 4 Ps: our persons, our people, our position, and our possessions. I vote because it is our responsibility to ensure that people in office safeguard the rights that God gives we the people. The First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution secures our right to worship God the way he says he wants to be worshiped in commandments 1 through 4. Godly people who honor God will also honor our family sanctity rights per commandment number 5. I vote because I believe God is still on his throne. And in America, he indeed has given us the right to democratically elect our leaders. If we fail to mass ourselves together and vote, evil will continue to befall our nation. But if we understand and honor what God gave us, we stand together and we vote. God can bless us. He can bless our faith. And he can work through us to supply our beloved USA with a deep bench of Bible-living, godly candidates and politicians who will apply the Bible to each civic decision. I am Pastor Earl Wallace of Liberty Christian Fellowship Church, and I support the My Faith Vote initiative. God bless you, and may he bless our beloved United States of America.